Hello all. Here is a simple widget created using Python Tinker. So this is commonly used by the electrical engineers. So to calculate the resistor divider. So it's a simple formula, but a small widget is created to see how it functions. Uh, you can see here R1 and R2 are two resistors, and then there's a supply that is provided. The voltage at the node VR2 need to be calculated. So is voltage with resistor divider is the heading, and then resistor R1 has an entry widget. This is the label. Resistor R2 is the label, and another entry widget is provided to enter a string here, and then voltage rail, the voltage which need to be provided to this need to be mentioned here, and then the voltage across R2 will be calculated. So once you give the values here, let us assume this is 10 ohms, okay, and then this is 10 ohms and this is 5 volts. So we expect that as the resistors are equal, the voltage will be half, which will be 2.5. you can see here this is 2.5, and the calculation is successful. So a simple widget actually. You can just try different options. So we just try to include an image as well and a logo of our channel. So going down, how it is implemented is actually the Tkinter is used, and then specifically a font has been called here. And now before going to this function, we will talk about the other things. A root widget has been calculated with geometry of 525 by 280, and then there are 4 string variables here, and two logos have been imported. One is our way to know YouTube channel logo, and then where to place this logo has been indicated, and another logo is the resistor divider one. So these two need to be placed in your root directory and then called, and the next one is another label is created using the label widget. You can also see here, if you just we are using PyDev using Eclipse, so this has been very useful. And this using this label widget, we have set the font, we have set the foreground colors, and also where to place this. And the second one, again, resistor R1 label has been created, and entry option has been created here. Similarly for R2 and the voltage rail, and here we just created an option to display. So to be calculated will be replaced by the value. So for that, another label has been created, and finally a button click. So basically a button is also required, so we used calculate there. So when you click on calculate, what happens is the command button click will be called, and and also using partial, we clubbed all the different variables, and then the button click into a single function call, which will be called. So finally what is done is, once the button click is done, the actual execution goes to the button underscore click method. So and then the main loop event has been called here, so that we see the widget being displayed. So once you can see here, we passed on the button click and then display 9 label object, and then all the string variables v, r1, r2. So these are the 3 input variables, and display 9 is the object where the actual text to be calculated is, in which we will be displaying. So if you go back to the method, so we are just trying to get these variables into other variables x, y, z, and as the voltages and the resistors involve the float variables, so by default these all will be string. We are typecasting them to different variables and then assigning them to voltage. So here there is a conditional check as well. If any of them is none, we should not do anything, because either R1 is not given in the widget, or R2 is not provided, or V is not provided, we cannot calculate, right? So all the three values are required. Even if voltage is none, what we are saying is calculation error. And if everything is okay, if any of them are not none, we are displaying a calculation successful. And then you can see here, so the configuration where the text is assigned the float value. So this directly is going to replace this to be calculated here. So and then the variable has been indicated, and the identifier, which is percentage, and then we are all assigning these to none. So the major points here is, one is you need a root widget, and then definitely label widget, entry widget, and you need to identify the place where you need to display them, and also the images need to be in the root directory, and you pack all the other variables and form a common function such that the method can be called properly with all the parameters involved. And then in the method you get the values into specific variables, do the typecasting, and definitely the conditional checks. So this again, if you are doing a formal project, definitely these conditional checks are very important, and everywhere you have to do error checks. If you are doing a hobby project, like how we have done here, you can ignore some of them. The main intention is to just come up with a small widget so that it can be used across different fields and by different people, and also learn the coding, and finally assigning default values and then returning from this. So a very simple one. So most important thing is adjusting the form factor of this particular widget, and identifying the size and variables, and your displaying your logos is the important thing. So as we mentioned, this is how it is looking like. So if we right now we have not done the error checks specifically here. So if there is nothing, we are not doing these specific checks. These can be added. For suppose if I run from the beginning, okay, and then if I try to calculate, nothing will happen actually. So these checks right now are not performed, and even if you enter one variable also, it will not function. So only when you enter all the required values, example we give these values, you can see the calculation is successful. So this small implementation has number of checks also that can be implemented and learned. Try it from your side, and please see the link below in the description where you can access this source code. Please let us know if you have any questions. Please post your comments and suggestions on this video. Thank you.